Hey everyone, it's Siddhi from Voice in the Age of the Machine, a field guide for makers of the future. This series features profiles of artists of all kind all over the world who are co-creating with AI and exploring how technology can serve imagination, not override it. Today, I'm very excited to be speaking to Vivek Anchalia. He's a director, a writer. He's the founder of Amazing Indian Stories, which is a creative studio pioneering India's AI storytelling scene. Vivek co-wrote Netflix's Rajma Chawal. He directed Thiktam for GeoStar, and he's in the process of creating Naisha, which is amazingly India's first fully AI-generated feature. And he just doesn't stop. He's now building a new AI-first production company with teams in Mumbai and Bangalore, and he's tied up with one of the biggest PR companies in India, Value 360, ahead of their upcoming IPO to create AI-driven advertising and brand solutions. So, in today's conversation with Vivek, I'm excited to talk to him more about what it takes to build an original IP pipeline using AI, how he thinks about culture and authorship when he's working with generative models, and where all of this might be heading next. So, Vivek, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Of course. So, before we get to the machine, I want to start with the medium. What
Sure.
first pulled you into cinema? Was there a defining moment in your life that made you say, look, I think I'm meant to be a storyteller?
I remember my childhood very clearly, especially when it was about watching television. There was a sense of where a story would go, and I was famous in my family for being able to predict things that would happen, say 50 episodes down the line. So I think there was a maybe a natural understanding of structure of how stories work, and which is what is going to be the most surprising thing to happen, and then you would put that as the probably the end, and then when it happens, then you're proven right. So I mean, I think there was some kind of storytelling instinct that was there. I didn't have that dream of becoming a film director. In fact, my life has been more about elimination than pursuing a goal. I knew what I didn't want to do. I didn't know what I wanted to do. So yeah, I mean, that I just kept rejecting things, and through that rejection, I've landed here. Is what's been
That's a beautiful response. What did you end up rejecting in that process?
quite a lot. Like I come from a Marwadi family, so we had businesses. It's a family business, so that I didn't want to do. Then my parents got me enrolled into the MBA school, the schools that prepare you for an MBA. And most of the time, I wouldn't go there. I mean, we did pay the fee for the training, but I would never go to the classes. So I ended up rejecting that. I was working at a call center, and I was decent at my job, but again, that also didn't seem like the thing that I wanted to do. Then I my first job was at Z Sports, where I was doing live television. I was more drawn towards the creative side of it because as high paying as the job was as a director in live sports, it felt like more of showing the world what everybody else is doing rather than you creating something. I came to Mumbai and I worked with channels like 9X, Star India, National Geographic, and Sony for some 8-9 years. And I was writing and directing promotional campaigns for upcoming shows for all these channels. Then I said, I'm bored of this also. And I was very lucky that as soon as I resigned from Sony, I signed Rajma Chawal as a writer.
Incredible.
So, so yeah, that
What a
was it.
multi-hyphenate, Vivek. What have you not done? I mean, so clearly you've had a very long career that's
Yeah.
taken multiple different forms in the Indian film industry. What would you say has been your proudest creative moment to date?
So directing Tikram was clearly one of the highlights of my life because I had never been on a set for 35 days, 40 days in a row. Because I was a short format guy to begin with. The max that you would do is 2 days, 3 days. But being on a set for those many number of days, you realize that you have nowhere to hide. And you are going to get up the next day and you're going to go to the set and you're going to answer all the questions that we will have to answer, and that changes you as a person. I mean, I felt like I was 5 years older by the end of that film. So that is one. And I mean, this also what I'm doing now, I don't even know if anybody realizes the size of where we are at this point and what this thing is, because we are now entering a space where nobody needs a permission to tell a story.
Yeah.
And that is what really excites me about this. That till yesterday, when I was doing the traditional format of storytelling, it was always, my film was only possible if so many people agreed
Yeah.
to doing it. Whether it was a studio, whether it was actor, whether it was a cinematographer, a lot of people had to agree to do my film, and then it would be possible. Unlike other artists, I mean, a painter doesn't need a permission to paint. A novelist doesn't need permission to write a novel, but a director does, because it is still bringing all the art forms together, and it needs money, it needs resources, it needs a lot of things. And I think because of that, a lot of directors who had a lot of stories to tell, a lot of writers who had a lot of film stories to tell, have not been able to do it. And I think there are more film scripts in our laptops than there are out there,
Oh,
and
for
good
sure.
good ones, right? So I think now this suddenly, when I was pitching for my next film after Tikram, that's a long journey, pitching a film, then getting
Yeah,
an actor
of
on board.
course.
So I was sitting at home a lot of that time, right? And I said, why am I wasting this time? Because by then I'd already started working on AI. I said, I have too many stories to tell, and I will not be able to make all of them live. And it's not one or the other. I think I'm still pitching for my live films, but at the same time, I said these are stories that I can say on with AI also. So why not?
That's incredible, Vivek. And I mean, I think the democratization of
Yeah.
access
Yes.
and how power is going to shift. It's already happening, but if you like look out at the next 2 to 3 years, I think it's going to be one of the most defining times
Yes.
in film industry history globally, but I think in one of the most beautiful and accessible and empowering ways that we've ever seen. So I think you really hit the nail on the head on that sentiment. When did AI first enter your creative practice, not just as this abstract idea,
Right.
but as
Right.
something you actually touched and used? And walk me through what that felt like to you.
So it's a very interesting thing because when I started using AI, it was for a life project.
Okay.
It was a feature film that I was pitching. It was a sports drama, and I wanted to make the deck in a very specific manner. I wanted to have a consistent character, which I could then take through the story and the phases of his life and everything. I did not have the money to make it, so at some point, one of my cinematographer friends, Aditya Kapoor, he told me about Mid Journey, and he said, there are some things that you can do there. But I was still, I was like, okay, I was reluctant about it.
Yeah.
But one night I really got frustrated that, where is this deck? I really want this deck in my hand. So I went on YouTube. I learned how Midjourney works. I started creating, and it was a 16-hour straight sit down on the computer, and I had a deck at the end of it.
When you looked back at that deck and the fact that you were able to accomplish in 16 hours what may have taken you, way
Yeah,
more time, money, and
yeah,
resource,
a month and a lot of money. Yeah.
what was
Oh,
the
the feeling was
feeling?
incredible. It was because between a thought and the entire execution, there are so many layers. There are so many things that you have to do. You have to brief people, then you take something back, then you have to give feedback, and it's a process of. Right now, it's just I'm saying or I'm typing and it's happening. I
Yeah.
mean, it is almost like magic, than the first time you do it, because you've never had this happen to you, even when you're in the process of storyboarding, right? And you're explaining in somebody's drawing in front of you, it is still exactly not the same thing. Sometimes something different, and then you're just changing it to make it close to your vision and all. But there's always somebody between you and the creation,
Yeah.
right? And this was the first time I felt that there's nobody between me and the creation. I'm not a painter. I'm
Yeah.
though I am a writer, and there maybe there's nobody between me and the text, but as a director I never felt that. I always felt there was somebody in the middle between me and the final output. And for the first time as a director, I feel extremely empowered. My vision is right there in front of me, and all I'm doing is just communicating.
I felt that on so many altitudes as
Right.
well. So thank you for sharing. Something that I've been talking about a lot, Vivek, is this idea of instead of the tech stack, the voice stack. And it's like this evolving mix of tools, techniques, and creative layers that help you retain your originality and voice while
Right.
working with AI, maybe even expand it. So, a combination of the technology that you're using, the manual components of the process that you're still deploying, like the same things you may have done many years ago, and then maybe just practices and best principles that you're putting into place to make sure that your voice is staying intact. Talk to me
Right.
about what your voice stack looks like.
It keeps changing every week, if you ask me,
Yeah.
because at this point the technology is evolving so fast, and there's so many players, and we're still at the nascent stage, right? So I mean, one week one software is better than the other, and then you're trying that one out.
Yep.
But the principles of storytelling are still the same, which is what you're relying on. I mean, even when I was shooting live, it was ideation and a short breakdown and a storyboard, and then shooting that video. I think that at every interval you just keep reevaluating that what is the best tool available for this particular thing. And it must have been mid journey last month, and today maybe it is something else. At the same time, the similar thing happens in video. When Kling 2.1 dropped, it again changed the game. Before that, Runway dropped the references, and that changed the game. If anyone you ask, they would say that they're still trying to figure it out, because
Yeah.
the tech is being figured out at the same time, right? But at the same time, there are a lot of techniques which are regular techniques that we use in the filmmaking process. I still do a voiceover just to get the feel, put it on the timeline. In my feature film, there are 6 songs which are done exactly how we would do songs for a live film. The lyrics are written by me. There are music directors. So the guy called Daniel B. George, who's done
Yeah.
4 songs. So Pratyajyoti Ghosh, Ujjwal Kashyap, they've done one song each. So that's because I felt, that the AI music that is out there right now is very good for the vibe. If you're looking for a vibe for an art film, but if you want storytelling to happen through it, it is still not there. I mean, it's not as deliberate as I want it to be. And also when it comes to background score, right? It's like a symphony. You know where your scene is going down, and you want the music to build that for you. And a prompt right now is not being able to do it. So I think a lot of my audio is still traditional, and my video is entirely AI. Is where I am.
Yeah, and we'll get to this piece in a little bit, but getting the music and the sound right is just so intrinsic to the
Right.
DNA of good content in India.
Right.
Yeah, you can have a not as amazing script, 5 out of 10 script, but you got 11 out of 10 music, and
Right.
it still
Right.
resonates, right? You
Yeah.
still win.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
You
Yes. It
still win.
moves us. India
Yeah.
is all about music and songs and
Oh,
sound.
of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah.
Vivek, one of the ideas that I've been thinking about a lot over the last year is this like term that I've coined. It's called the creative firewall, right?
Right.
It's this idea that there's this boundary that every artist sets between what they automate or generate and
Right.
what they protect, really to preserve and maintain their creative voice and sovereignty in this machine-driven era, right? So what's your creative firewall? What stays fully human in your process no matter what?
I think writing is still, because I think a lot of writer directors can only write in their voice, right? So I mean, I can train Chat GPT to try and mimic my voice a little bit, and with the stuff that I've already written, but it is still never there. What people probably don't realize is that your writing is also your mood on that day. ChatGPT's mood is the same every day. Writing becomes organic because of you had a fight in the morning.
Yeah.
Now that comes into your writing, and you just had a great conversation with a friend, and then that comes into your writing. I mean, you can't plan for stuff like that. It is a lot of accidents that happen that do spill into your writing. What your week has been like, what your month has been like, what your year has been like. All that, your mood defines how you write. I have a 7-year-old, and he does some things, and I put it in my scripts. But a chat GPT wouldn't be able to, it can imagine something like that, but it won't be able to do that. And I think, especially when writers and writer directors are doing something, they can feel that it's off when it's not their voice. And you're always trying to bring it into your voice, even if it is written by someone else. To me, writing is still something that almost exclusively I do myself. I sometimes go to chat GPT just to expand on ideas, brainstorm and everything. But I've realized whatever it gives me, also I end up coming back and typing myself everything. So writing is something that I think is absolutely human. And like I said, music, we are still doing it the
Yeah.
usual way, because that also feels very personal. And again, I think that also because I am a lyricist, so that also is my voice.
I love that. That was beautiful framing. There's a metaphor, Vivek, that I like to use. It's called like the mirror maze, right? So it's this idea that the machine doesn't just reflect your inputs, it
Right.
sometimes eerily also reflects how it thinks you think. So
Right.
have you ever had a model return something to you that either felt strangely revealing, scary, surprising? Walk me
Yeah.
through what that looked like.
I mean, it does all the time now. When you are, because it has so much information on you, and at some level, we are also all patterns. And we have our no matter. I mean, though I just spoke about how a day changes your writing and everything, but there are still fixed patterns. I mean, that 90% of the time you will react like this in a situation like that, right? So we all have our trigger points. We all have our traumas. We all have our weaknesses, and they remain constant, right? I mean, till you fix them. So I think what happens is, over a period, when you keep chatting with ChatGPT, it reads those things about you, because you are talking about your fears also sometimes. Whether you're doing it directly or you're doing it through your writing, it reads that you know what kind of a person you are. So I mean, I've sometimes asked ChatGPT that, you know, what would I do in a situation like this? And sometimes the thing that it comes up with is exactly what I would do in a situation like that. At a larger level, it does know me, but I think at a very minute level is where still I think there's a little bit of a guesswork, where you say, nah,
Yeah.
you don't know, don't know me that well, but yeah, you know enough is what it feels like.
My husband makes fun of me all the time because I spend all day talking to ChatGPT. So now when I text him to ask him to help me with something, he's like, I'll just ask your GPT. You don't need me. Outsource it. Vivek, what has AI shown you about your own patterns, aesthetics, blind spots, either creatively or culturally? Has there been a learning moment for you where you've had experiences where you're like, wow, I've learned something about who I am as a creative?
Yes, yes. When you ask a chat GPT, you know, this is how the business, this is the business that I want to run. And, you know, these are the things that are important to me. It then starts telling you things about, you know, this is where you again keep making the same mistake again and again. Sometimes taking a decision because you're too emotional about the writing. Like you're now you're really obsessing over a detail. Maybe you can come back to it later. You know, why are you spending so much time on this one scene? And I also ask it, in the last 7 days, you know, we've had this entire thing, we've been doing this, where do you think I was stuck? And it tells you that this is where you were stuck, and most of the time it's right.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Vivek, Indian cinema it's emotionally rich, it's stylistically bold, and it's deeply specific. I grew up on it, and it's funny because you would think growing up in the States that the thing that would make me want to pursue a career in storytelling would be growing up on the Jurassic Parks and the Star Warses of the world, which endlessly captivated my imagination. But it was like 90s Bollywood cinema that made me feel like I need to do something in this
uh,
field. I love it more than I could ever express. And there's this like fierce protectiveness that also comes out in me sometimes around, we gotta preserve this because it is so just intrinsic to the storytelling culture of India. And so how do you think about protecting that cultural
absolutely
specificity? Because many of these models, right, they're trained on globalized or Western data. And so I'm just curious how you grapple with all of that.
right. So I've been on the same page. I also grew up watching a lot of nine. I'm a huge Shah Rukh Khan fan.
Oh, of
I mean,
course.
yeah. So I also, I mean, कुछ कुछ होता है, दिल तो पागल है, दिल वाले दुल्हनिया ले जाएंगे, मैंने प्यार किया, हम आपके हैं कौन. So I mean, that's why I think when I got a chance to not take permission to do a movie without permission, it is a romantic film. You know, my songs are that space, and I naturally, I think organically, I move towards that, because in all the other movies, you always have the market, what is working right now, what the studio wants to do, what the producer wants to do. So when it came to what I want to do, I think I organically moved to the 90s kind of a space. I believe that the way to preserve it right now, it is there's a lot of material which is when it's being put into LLM, I think is a Western material. And initially, it was extremely difficult to create Indian faces, but I think now that is getting fixed. Not to an extent that, you know, all Indian images are as good as Western images. Like,
Yeah.
the lighting is not great sometimes. Whereas I think because the data that has been fed from the Western films, that data is a greater, richer data in terms of cinematic data, cinematic lighting, and compositions and everything. Here, I don't think that process has been done. So that is why that the difference in quality that you see exists. But at the same time, I think it's just a matter of time, because the big tech companies are based in US. I think there is a little bit of an advantage there. But I also believe that this is the first time that India has a huge advantage
Oh,
over
for
the
sure.
over the
For
US.
sure.
I think, in fact, a lot of countries have an advantage over America at this point, and I'll tell you why I say that. I
Tell
have
me.
a theory, because what you guys always had in America is the advantage of language, right? English was the language of the world. That's why you could raise money to make an avatar, and you could reach a level where the VFX was phenomenal and the films look great. Today, what AI is doing in a US market is it is just making it cheaper to do the same films, right? because the visual excellence was already at some level achieved throughout all your films, right? But in India, we've never had that because we did not have a market big enough to tell our stories. And who could even make 1,000 crore film? It was not possible because we would not be able to get the money back. But if that number comes down, then we have way more of a stock of stories to tell than say someone who's dealing with English language, because today the AI artists I'm saying who are making stuff in English are still competing with James Cameron, right? They are still competing with the Spielbergs of the world. Whereas when I am sitting in India and if I want to make a story about, let's say, Maharana Pratap from Rajasthan, there is no comparison because that story has not been told in that way at that
Yeah.
scale,
Yeah.
right? So I believe that a lot of countries and a lot of different languages are going to have that advantage at this point, and I think it's going to get very, very interesting very soon.
Yeah. I mean, so what you're saying is that you're not benchmarking against the best technical VFX that's been done on the planet. You're benchmarking against a story that's never existed. And so the aperture just opens up so much in terms of what's possible.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. It is what a time to be alive, Vivek.
yeah,
It's amazing.
yeah.
So on that gap, and I know you said that you think it'll catch up. Are there specific
Yeah,
visual
people are doing it in India
textures?
also.
Yeah.
People are training LLMs in India now with Indian images and photographs and everything. So I mean we are a little behind, obviously,
Yeah.
but I think also we are too big a market to ignore for anyone.
Yeah.
I
Totally.
mean, yeah, Google will have to do it, and I mean eventually everybody will have to do it.
If you could name a few areas that you think AI hasn't caught up yet, intrinsic to Indian cinema and storytelling that it needs to, it can be visual textures, editing rhythms, structures. Where do you think the biggest catch up needs to happen the fastest?
I think India it still hasn't caught up much at all, honestly, if you ask
Yeah.
me. If you look at the filmmakers, 80-90% of the filmmakers are not trained filmmakers, right? In US have a system of education where they're taught through the same books, and there's a screenplay structure that has been taught. I think what has happened in India is all these filmmakers have a very, very original voice. That's why I think Indian films look very different from whatever gets made across the world. So I don't think it is going to be possible to say standardize India's content making that way. Because if you look at South, Tamil, Telugu, Kannada, they have very different grammar. If you go to Bihar, that has a very different grammar. You go to Bollywood has an extremely different grammar. Within Bollywood, there are multiple ways, a story gets
Yeah.
told. Then you have filmmakers who are doing beautiful indie films, which go to the festivals, which are more about everyday lives of people in India. So I will find it very difficult to put even 30 films, Indian films, in one bracket and say these are the same kind of films, right? So I think it is going to be a very difficult task to train any LLM on India, because I think that way we are a very unique country. We have multiple religions, multiple languages, multiple cultures. We don't even wear the same clothes. 100 kilometers away, everything changes. So how do you train anything for something like that, right?
Yeah.
So I think that way it's a very difficult thing to get trained on. But I also think that gives us a lot of advantage in terms of how many different stories can come out of India using the same tools, right? Like people who are making stuff in South are making very, very different stuff, and people who are making Bollywood, I think from India, very, very different stories are going to come out in the next 2 years on AI. We'll be surprised. I mean, I'm saying, and I can see a lot of things coming out, and I still know I'm going to be surprised by what's going to come out.
Yeah.
So
I'm so excited. I am maddeningly excited. It's going to be
yeah,
amazing. Vivek, how has your definition of authorship
yeah.
changed? So now that there are some parts of the process that are being co-created with machines, what does that look like and mean to you?
I think I've said it earlier also that if there's anything more important than content, it is context, right? What is a prompt without an input? I mean, that a prompt doesn't exist in vacuum, right? A prompt is my thought. At the very core level, it is my thought. And then my thought is written well in great language with great detail with the help of, say, a GPT and everything. It's not like I'm just asking, give me a movie, and it is giving me a movie, right? I'm still coming up with the idea of the film. It is what it feels like is an army of super assistants. That is how I feel while I'm working with it, because it usually also happens, you write a script and you want to direct a film, and then you have this entire team of the direction team with you. Then you have a DP who has a team, then you have a production designer who has a team, and then you have the makeup artist and the costume department that has their own teams. And right now it feels like all those teams are here, and I can directly talk, and they are all working together to bring that vision to life. But still the vision is coming from outside the computer, but the vision is still mine, so I'm very comfortable with that.
Yeah, it's a good distinction. We're seeing solo creators, Vivek, every day I'm online and there's 10, 20 more AI native studios that have emerged, right? The pace of acceleration here is just blows my mind. They're rethinking distribution from the ground up. Do you think that this moment in time is truly leveling the field? Or in a market like India, do you think that there are still major access gaps that we need to overcome?
See, we also need to probably understand why this is happening, right? Because, like I said, till now it was not possible to do it. But there was it was not a lack of desire, that was not letting a lot of films happen. It was a lack of access, right? So people, I on a every weekly basis, I meet so many script writers who have scripts, who want to make it. They're just not being able to get it commissioned, is what it is. So there are people waiting for this moment to happen. And you tell a writer that they remember that script that you pitched to 50 different producers, and you've not been able to, which we all feel is a fantastic story. Now you can make it on your own. You don't need to go to another producer to make it. Why would that guy not get onto the laptop and make it? I mean, I think we are entering a new era. I think what YouTube did for creators, for actors, AI is going to do for directors and storytellers. It is going to open the market wide open. And at the same time, distribution and marketing is still a big part of it. I mean, even if you make content, how do you get it seen?
Yeah.
Right. So I think that ecosystem will evolve. At this point, of course, it's difficult. Like, if I was to even make something and put it out, I would have to spend some kind of money to get some kind of visibility. I think we are going to see new structures being built. In fact, in India, we are already working on stuff where we are building new structures. We are collaborating with other artists and all that. And we do feel that this is our time now, finally.
Amazing.
Yeah.
If I had a camera over your shoulder, Vivek, as you were making Naisha,
Right.
what would I see? What would that room look like?
You would see me banging my head, is what you would see. I mean, almost every third minute, because having spoken about all the possibilities that AI brings, and all the freedom and liberation that it gives you, it is right now, it's still ridiculously difficult to put a narrative together, right? And because AI is not 100% specific about giving you what you want exactly, it'll give you close to what you want, but it'll never ever give you exactly what you want. It is still not, the usual process where the script will be made as is. You need to be flexible on the way. And that is why I think individual creators have advantage over big studios at this point. That where it's process driven, where you need multiple approvals. Like in case of Naisha, I don't need anybody's approval, right? I mean, if a shot is not working, I rewrite stuff and I then do something else. I figure it out, is what is happening. But at the same time, if when bigger studios are doing it, or bigger companies are doing it, or teams are doing it, then you always have a supervisor who okay the shot, and whatever it's not working, people can't keep calling you for every shot, right? I think now this is a time when filmmakers will have to sit in the chair in front of the laptop initially, at least, till the technology becomes so user friendly that anybody can make it. Till then, I think it is not about getting some artists in the room and getting it done. It won't happen like that. At this time, creator will have to meet tech midway. And it can't be that the creator will tell the tech guys what they want and then they'll get it. It won't happen. You will have to get your hands dirty, and you'll have to make your movie with your own hands.
Vivek, you're a quote book. You're just a walking book of quotes, and you've got so much creative energy and ambition that I read that you're also in the process now of launching a new AI first production company, working with teams in Mumbai and Bangalore. What's the vision behind that move, and what kinds of stories or scale are you trying to unlock that you couldn't before?
Right. So we are called Amazing Indian Stories because that's what we want to do. We want to tell the amazing Indian stories which have not been told. So there are two things that we are doing. One is the content side of it, where we are trying to create IPs. and put content out. Like Naisha, we want to do theatrical, and after that, we want to do a OTT release. But after that, we are also going to start building our own stuff and see. I mean, this can be a licensing play, this can be OTT play. We'll see where it goes, and what is the most lucrative way to do it. But we want to make our own content and own it. We want to be an IP studio, and so that is one side of the business. At the same time, on the other side of the business, because I have the last 9 years I've been shooting ad films. I've been an ad film director. So we are also jumping into that space, because a 30 seconder would have 20 shots, 25 shots, right? You can keep refining and get to a point. Also, it's very, very cost effective for advertisers to go for it. So we partnered up with one of the biggest PR companies in the country, Value 360, and we are launching this new company, which is a joint venture between Value 360 and Amazing Indian Stories. So we'll be doing advertising in that company, and Amazing Indian Stories as a core company will be looking to become an IP studio.
What, Vivek, in a market like India is the pathway to theatrical distribution for a fully AI generated feature? I mean, I'm just so curious what that could even look like.
Right. So the distributors are already interested. We are having conversations, because we had to pause the film a little bit in the middle, and because of how fast the technology is moving, and we were constantly redoing the film, and it looked like an expensive process. So we just said we need to take a breather, and we need to figure out how to do this. And I mean, now we have figured out, and we are on that path. I think once we are done with the final finished film is when we'll decide the size of the release. But right now we are going with traditional distributors who would come in and distribute the film. What is the usual way of distribution in India? I mean, I don't think anybody can answer that way. There are multiple ways. I
Yeah.
mean, people release it themselves. Then there are these big distributors who would you could go to and partner up with, and who would release the film into the theatricals. A lot of big studios are themselves distributors. So
Yep.
if it's their film, they'll do it themselves. And then there are cinema chains who also then distribute. So you could go directly to them also. So, I
Yeah.
mean, there is no clear path. I think every film is different. And the money is the budget, access, who everything, I mean, decides where your film is going to land.
Vivek, if you had to describe this creative moment that we are in as artists right now,
Right.
what would you call it?
I would call it freedom. I mean, is I don't know how else to term it. Liberation, freedom are the words that are coming to my mind. I still want to go back to a live set. I still want to talk to my actors, and I still want to direct that film. But at the same time, I also don't want to sit idle when a film is not happening. And I have so many stories to tell, and I also don't think that this is one is a replacement of another, because we do not operate in a market where the supply cannot be endless, because we are not making toothpaste. It's not like there are only 100 households which will need 100 toothpaste, right? Content is an endless business that way, and the world is becoming more and more about individual content. You cannot make a thing which everyone likes. It is just not possible anymore. It was possible 20 years ago, where people say had a similar life and similar choices and everything. But with the internet explosion and things that have happened, I mean, in one house you have five people who want to watch five extremely different things, right? So that is great for content makers, because everybody wants more and more content. So I mean, you can do all the lives that you want to do, you can do all the AI that you want to do, you can do all the animation that you want to do, and if your stuff is good, it'll find its audience, is what I believe.
Yeah.
So I don't even see it as a threat to say traditional artists that way, because again, it's not like there are only 10 films that will get made, and you are fighting for those 10 slots. It's not like that. On YouTube, there, how many creators are there, how much content is there? I mean, so it's not like YouTube only allows you to make, say, 1,000 films a day. It doesn't. It says put 10,000, put 20,000,
Yeah. Yeah.
50,000, right? So yeah.
Yeah. For artists in India or anywhere who are just getting curious about AI, but maybe they don't have technical training or they don't have the strongest background in how the tech works, what would you say to them?
I don't have any technical background. I think more than the technical part of it, you need to figure out the storytelling part of it. Because if you don't know what to prompt, how will an image appear? How will a video appear? Right? If you don't know that this shot you want, say from a low angle on a 16 lens, tracking in, then you won't get that shot, because it's not even there in your head. to begin with? And if it is not there in your head, how will it be in a prompt? And if it is not in a prompt, how will it be in an image? And if it is not in an image, how will it be in a video? So I think if you can figure out the storytelling aspect of it, then this is not difficult. I mean, no disrespect to anyone. People talk about all these big institutes. People go to Harvard and Wharton, and in India there are IIMs and everything. I think there isn't a school like YouTube. Uh, I think what YouTube gives you, free knowledge is what it gives you, and I'm so thankful to artists across the world who are willing to share that information. And I learned everything on YouTube. I have not had one single course on either of these platforms. I've just learned on YouTube, and I've tried, and I've failed, and I've tried again, and I've learned again. I mean, that's how it is. And I think anybody can learn it, but learn the storytelling aspect of it first. You need to know, because how will you identify whether this is a good shot or not? I mean, what is a good shot, right? So I think finding your voice is very important. Once you find your voice, the shape will be given by all these tools that are there.
100%. Okay, finally, last question for you, Vivek. What do you hope your own work is pointing towards? So let's fast forward out 10 years, 15 years. You're
Right.
looking back. What would look like success to you with technology, with story, with voice? What does that future look like? Paint it for me.
The honest answer is I don't know. Like I said, I mean, I didn't have a goal when I started. It wasn't like, if I reach there, then I'm successful, right? I am just moving. I'm just flowing wherever it's taking me. After a live film, I never thought I didn't even think I would do a live film as a director when I started, right? And then that happened. So if I feel that if I'm somehow being able to stay curious, and if you can 20 years down the line, if you can look at the career and say, this guy was really curious through the way he never became obsolete or irrelevant, and said no to new things, and kept accepting what came in the way and kept adapting. If at the end of my career, if you say he was adaptive, that would be success to me. Yes.
Yeah. You have inspired me endlessly today. What a great way to kick off a Saturday morning
Thank you
in
so much.
LA.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for your curiosity. I think you're modeling to a generation what it
Thank you.
looks like to be curious and to embrace the tools and to really, I think, be discerning, right? Which you very much are, about the role that the human voice and creative power, individual creative power, still play in the very machine-shaped world that we're in. So again, really appreciate your time, and we're all going to be watching and looking out and cannot wait to see Naisha when it lands that big theatrical distribution play.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Of course. See you
Lovely
soon.
talking to you. Yeah. See you. Bye.